speaker is Dr. Madhusudan Reddy Nandineni, and may I take the pleasure of introducing him to you. So he is a counselor of Science and Technology Section, Embassy of India, Berlin, in Germany. Dr. Madhusudan holds the position of scientific counselor at Indian Embassy in Berlin, Germany. Earlier, he worked as a staff scientist and group leader at Laboratory of DNA Fingerprinting Services and Genomics and Profiling Applications, CDFD in Hyderabad. Apart from this, he has significant contributions in the form of papers and reviews in well-reputed journals and holds important positions at many professional organizations. And with this, may I please welcome Dr. Madhusudan Reddy to deliver his speech.
Yeah, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can. Yeah.
Okay. At the outset, I would like to thank the FABA organization for inviting me to this webinar. I would like to personally thank Professor Redana sir for inviting me to this online video conferencing mode through which I can interact with the students. I would like to thank Dr. Degjees and also the other organizers of this meeting for inviting me to this digital mode of interaction and to share some of the views about the opportunities for students from India in Germany. As the organizers have said, I hold the position of Counselor Science and Technology at the Embassy of India. My job here is to look after science, technology, and innovation cooperation between India and Germany, along with it also the higher education and students affairs. So if you look at the cooperation between India and Germany, we have excellent S&T and innovation cooperation between the two countries. It is in various modes, I would say. It is in bilateral mode. It is in terms of mega science projects which we have, and the various science ministries like Department of Science and Technology, Department of Biotechnology, ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research, ICAR, Indian Council of Agriculture Research, CSIR, and various other science departments, and also Ministry of Earth Sciences are involved with the various scientific organizations and ministries in Germany, especially the the Federal Ministry for Education and Research, BMBF, or the other federal ministries, also with aerospace agencies in Germany. So there has been very good and excellent relations and cooperation between both the countries. And India is also part of a couple of mega science projects in the terms of facility for antiproton and ion research, and also DESI. These are the two mega projects in which India is part of it. And India and Germany established what is called as a bilateral science center. We call it as IGSTC, Indo-German Science and Technology Center. It is co-funded by the DST and the Federal BMBF Ministry here in Germany for 2+2 model of cooperation. When I say 2+2, one academic partner plus an industry from India and one academic partner and one industry from Germany, they collaborate under 2+2 mode. And I mean, we have various schemes wherein we also attract a lot of German students and German faculty to India. To name a few, we have GAN, Global Initiative for Academic Network, SPARK program, which all of you know, scheme for academic and research projects, wherein visits and long-term stay of international faculty and students are facilitated. We also have what we call the Vajra scheme for faculty, visiting faculty scheme. And also every year under the scheme of Lindau Nobel Laureates meeting with young researchers, a group of I would say around 15 to 30, depends upon year to year, around 20 to 30 Indian students come to Germany to interact with Nobel laureates in Germany. So apart from this, there are excellent relations between India and Germany in the field of higher education as well. And one of the features which you will understand why Germany has been attracting so many students to Germany, especially Indian students, is the fact that we have in India, we have in Germany right now, Indian students form the second largest component after China. We have more than 25,000 Indian students right now in Germany pursuing their higher education. in various universities. And you will be surprised to know that there has been more than 20% increase in the number of Indian students in the last 1 year. And this growth is actually fivefold than the global average. When I say this, what it means is last year there has been an increase of around 4% of international students in German universities, whereas Indian students found more than 20% increase in the last year. This itself shows that the importance the Indian students give to Germany, and also the excellent opportunities the students have in Germany. And when we talk about opportunities for students in Germany and educational opportunities, why do you think Germany is such an destination for studies and education? Because Germany has excellence in research and training, and it offers a wide range of courses, and it has close links between industry and academia. And they also stress on development of personal and intellectual potential with a safe and economically stable location in this country. When it comes to German education system, the students need to take into account a couple of points. What are the advantages the German education system offers when compared to other countries? I'm here not as a consultant for any other, this is a disclaimer, not a consultant for any company or any association, but I'm talking about my impressions about the advantages of German education system, but don't take it as an advertisement for any particular university or organization or representatives. So coming to this German education system and what are the advantages it offer, one needs to look at the fact that Germany offers free education and internationally recognized programs. That means many of the programs, a majority of them, especially in the public funded state universities, the education is free. The student needs to pay only a minimum amount for administrative and public transportation costs, but most of the public funded universities, it is free education. That means it's free of charge. And their students also get to work in some places 120 days per year to sustain themselves and to gain some knowledge about industry related knowledge. So the thing is, it has free education and at the same time offers international recognized programs. And German universities are ranked among the top universities in the world. As per a survey last year, there are more than 20 universities in the top 200 rankings. This itself speaks about the excellence, academic excellence and research excellence, which is primarily due to contemporary environment or the scientific paper citations and a good international reputation. And therefore, German universities are among the top ranks in the world. And the other point which needs to be noted down is Germany offers a variety of attractive international study programs. There are more than 2,000 courses at master's levels which are offered in English language, and they are all world-class programs and international study programs which are designed to suit everyone's interest. And as I said, many of them are in English medium of instruction. And another big advantage which is very unique to Germany is the dual education system, wherein the dual aspects of learning such as theory and practice are gelled together. That means the students in dual education system also get advantage of practical knowledge when they go to a company or industry, and they can actually learn both theory and practicals at the same time. And if you look at the German innovation system as such, the universities form the main central component of this R&I. What I mean by R&I is research and innovation landscape in Germany. And we have several societies, the very famous societies like Max Planck Society, Leibniz Association, Helmholtz Association, and Fraunhofer Society. These also take a major, they do a major component of funding and also research. Each of these associations have their own niche areas. Some of them work on basic research, some of them work on translational research, some of them have their own specializations. Apart from these universities and associations, we have federal institutes and also the state university institutes which cater to the R&I landscape in Germany. And apart from this, we have networks and clusters. Like in India, we have research infrastructure, which all actually feed into the R&I research and innovation landscape in Germany. And one of the aspects which you look at the R&D landscape in Germany, especially from a university perspective, if you look at it, there are more than 400 educational institutions in Germany, out of which there are 120 universities and 210 universities of applied sciences. This is what they call it as Fachhochschulen, or universities of applied sciences, wherein there is a close interaction between the theory and practical, wherein people go and do applied research in these 210 universities which are there in Germany. In addition to these universities and applied universities, there are approximately 60 colleges of art and music, and what they call as Music Hochschulen or Konto Hochschulen, which are colleges of arts and music. So in all, we have around 400 higher education institutes offering world-class education in Germany. And they actually have more than 700,000 staff, out of which more than 100,000 staff are actually working in higher education institutions and university hospitals. Uh, 2 years back, if you look at the statistics, I mean, this is not the latest statistic, but the last year, 2019 statistics, there are more than 2.6 million students in Germany, of which nearly 14% are international students. This is probably one of the highest numbers of international student community which I have come across in the world. I mean, almost like 14% of the students here in Germany are international students. And here, the domestic expenditure on research and development, 50% of such expenditure on domestic R&D expenditure comes from third-party funding from DFG or federal government or German states and industry. And one other point with the students from India should keep a note is that more than 5,000 international students actually complete their PhD every year in Germany. Why I'm saying this is, this tells how, I mean, the international student community in Germany, especially in higher education, not only at bachelor's, master's, but also at the PhD level and postdoctoral level. Every year, 5,000 international students pass out from German universities. And there are more than 46,000 academics work in German higher education. And every year, almost like 15 to 20,000 researchers, international students come to Germany for their research purposes. And when I talk about the funding organizations, I mean, I will give you a couple of names where the interested students can go and then look at their individual websites, because the list is so exhaustive. I mean, I will not be able to do justice to any of the organizations which are funding, not to any of the students who are interested in some specific courses. So basically, one can look at Alexander von Humboldt Foundation, and DAAD, which is German Academic Exchange Service. This is the second one. DFG, German Science Foundations, and European Union. These are the main associations and funding organizations which fund the higher education in Germany, and for which both students, researchers, and young faculty as well can actually browse at these websites for different funding schemes for their studies or research or stay in Germany. Apart from these, there are also schemes like Duo India Fellowship Scheme. This is called ASEM, ASEM Duo Fellowship Scheme, which is actually Asia European Union European exchange program, wherein it requires that a pair, one pair from Asia and one pair from Europe, they actually exchange. A pair consists of students or teachers. They get into this fellowship program, wherein India is also a member of this SM member countries, wherein a pair of students from a particular country and India can exchange their stay here for research and education. And basically, this particular scheme, Duo India Fellowship Scheme, is applicable to such institutes which are qualified under SPARK program, which I said, Scheme for Promotion of Academic and Research Collaboration, which is Ministry of Education, Government of India's program. So those institutes which are qualified under SPARK program are also qualified under Duo India Fellowship program. And if there are students who are looking for, who are doing pursuing a degree in field of science and engineering, and there is one particular scheme called WISE, Working Internship in Science and Engineering. One can look WISC, WISE scheme in DAAD program website. Then you also have in DAAD scheme of program sandwich model of scholarships for PhD registered scholars. and that also gives COPSI, KOSPIE COPSI fellowships. So therefore, I'm saying there are several schemes wherein I don't want to take your time by naming those schemes, but if you look at the DAD website in India and New Delhi, they will give you various schemes, and they actually give you depending on the field of study you are interested in, whether it's science, arts, or engineering stream. And when the students can go and see various schemes and opportunities for funding in DAD website. And students are also advised to look at Euraccess Germany, which is again a funding database, and Stipendium Lost, which is another website wherein they can look for fellowships and scholarship database of BMBF, wherein students can look at whether they are eligible for different schemes. So these are some of the aspects which I thought I will share with you. As I said, this funding opportunity for students is such a vast subject. It depends upon the subject area. It depends upon on the organization and the universities and the state. So my last closing remarks will be the students should be able to get more information, and they are highly encouraged to look at the DAD website or Euraccess website, and also DFG and Humboldt website to get into details about such funding schemes. And with these small remarks, I will close my presentation. I look forward to listening to other talks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Reddy, for these insights into what all opportunities are there and what Germany is already doing for Indian students, and giving us a short insight into the statistics of how many students are already pursuing higher studies in Germany as well. So I have maybe one or two queries for you that I can see in the chat box. So there was a question about if you were talking. So I'm sure you were talking about a general scenario, not only science and technology, like field science and engineering field, but the statistics and the opportunities that you gave were of general higher study scenario, which comprises of all the subjects. Is that true, sir? So you need to unmute.
Yeah, basically what I was, can you hear me now, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
basically what I was telling, this it depends upon the stream of subject, whether it is engineering or natural sciences, life sciences and all. So basically, if you go to this DAD website and other funding agencies, which I said, there are, the students can actually search depending on their area of interest. And basically there are bachelor's, master's, PhD, postdoctoral fellowship. So again, there are different layers of funding schemes and opportunities at different layers. And it all depends upon what the student or the researcher is looking at, whether he's looking at a master's course or PhD or postdoc, or again on different subjects.
Okay, because so the audience, I need to make this clear to you. As sir just mentioned, all the websites that he mentioned, all the organization DAD, DFG, Humboldt. So all of these are not restricted to science only. They do have the opportunities for all other subjects also. So please go to these websites to explore your interest. And there is request from a lot of students who are asking you to share some kind of document where all these websites are mentioned, but maybe we can do that for them. Definitely, like he's already told you some organizations' names, so we would request you to Google these organizations, as the information about these is readily available as soon as you type in the Google. And
yeah, that will be a good idea. That is a good idea. Yeah.
Right. And so with this, thank you so much, Dr. Reddy. Professor Redana, do you have something to add to that?
No, I think we are going to collect that website addresses and place them on the web also.
Sure. Yes, sir. Yeah. Okay. And for the students who are asking me about the recording of this webinar and everything, so please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm providing the link in the chat box again and again, because the recording of this webinar will be placed there within a week's time. And thank you, Dr. Madhusudan Reddy, for being with us here today. for taking out time to address the audience and to clear their doubts.
My pleasure.
Now we're ready to move on with our second speaker of the day, Dr. Shashank Saran. And may I please take the pleasure of introducing him to all of you. He is currently a senior scientist in AstraZeneca, Cambridge, UK. He pursued his PhD and postdoctoral research in Hanover Medical School in Germany and acquired research background in cancer biology and oncology. He subsequently joined Immunocore, a biotechnology company based near Oxford, UK, to explore the field of immuno-oncology. He holds extensive experience in managing projects involved in identification of novel antigens and biomarkers for developing targeted therapies against cancer and peer review publications. Well, he's also my senior. I would like to add to that. He was my immediate senior at the University of Hyderabad, and that is how I know him, and that is how I approached him. Because I knew that he has done his PhD in Germany, and I wanted to bring his experience to all of you who were interested in pursuing higher studies in Germany as well. And with this, may I please now request Dr. Shashank to take over.
Yeah, thank you, Nidhi, for that introduction. I'm really glad that FABA is doing such an impressive job in actually sharing the experiences of seniors or people like us who are residing in different locations in world, and this will be quite helpful for people who actually want to pursue higher studies anywhere in the world. So thank you, FABA, for giving me this opportunity to share my experiences. And I'm really glad to see Professor Ridana, who was also one of my teachers during the masters when I was pursuing my masters in Hyderabad University, my masters in biotechnology. And I'm happy to see Jagdish as well there. So it's quite nice to see all of you guys, bringing the memories back of Hyderabad. I actually have a presentation. So can I share my presentation?
Yes, of course you can. You can just share your screen and it should happen without a glitch.
Yeah. Yeah, so can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. So hello everyone. So as Nidhi spoke, so I'll be basically talking about this topic, which is for today, the exploring higher studies opportunities in Germany. So considering my background that I actually pursued a PhD in Germany, this talk will mostly focus on doing a PhD in Germany, but of course you can go for masters in Germany as well, if you like that. And I think Dr. Madhusudan here, he can give you much more idea about how pursuing masters in Germany, but my talk will be mostly focusing on PhD in Germany. So just giving you a brief journey of how I went. So I actually pursued my bachelor's in biomedical sciences in Delhi University, and then I went on to Hyderabad to pursue my MSc in biotechnology from Hyderabad University. And then I applied for a lot of PhD programs in Germany and also in other countries. And then I finally got an opportunity to pursue PhD in molecular medicine in Hanover Medical School in Germany. And here I developed an expertise in cancer research area, and this enabled me to get an opportunity to move to industry and get an opportunity and explore the field of immuno-oncology in a small biotechnology company, which is based in Oxford called Immunocore. And now I'm currently working in AstraZeneca in the translational pathology field. So it's more of a cancer research oriented background that I have. So just starting with my PhD lab. So in Germany, I had a nice lab actually. I think I would really acknowledge my Professor Therukutumura Niemann, who is quite a great cancer research expert in basic as well as in translational areas. And I was glad that I got that opportunity to work in her lab. So essentially her lab actually focused on uncovering the role of an mRNA export complex in cancer, and I got the opportunity to work on this area. So these are some of my highlights, which you can see that I got an opportunity to work on an inducible knockout mice and to study the role of this protein TOC5, which is basically involved in mRNA export, and to study its role, that what's happening when mice is knocked out in the mice. And and very nicely, I was able to, I think I was lucky when I joined the lab that I was able to get these mice and I was able to characterize these mice and get a good phenotype out of them, that this protein was essential for the proliferation. And then finally, the project which I was working that transformed into studying the role of this protein in cancer. And I got an opportunity to develop a cancer cell adhesion assay. So it was quite nice to have a PhD in her lab because I was able to diversify my skill set, not only in basic, but also in translational research. So coming to the major topic of today's presentation, and that is the question of pursuing higher studies in Germany, like supposedly a PhD like I pursued. So I think one of the major questions which I think the students who want to pursue a PhD, they should be clear that why do they want to do a PhD? Because it's kind of a commitment for 3 to 4 years. And you have to be sure that what do you want to get out of this course? Why do you really want to pursue a PhD? Are you really interested in committing your 3 to 4 years in a research project? And that is something which people should be aware of. Now, the next question, of course, comes out from there, that why do people want to do PhD in Germany? So there are kind of a lot of advantages. I think some of them were covered by Dr. Madhusudan, who actually said that there is no application fee. So when I was applying for PhD in Germany, I was able to apply to many programs because there was no initial application fees for Germany. So you can apply for a lot of programs. And also there are many structured programs in Germany. So there's a proper structure-oriented programs, and these are delivered in English language. So that's quite relevant for international students who want to pursue a PhD in Germany. And the PhD is usually a duration of 3 to 4 years. Of course, it depends on your project and on your lab and your supervisor and how you are motivated to work on that research project. But on an average, it takes around 3 to 3.5 years. And of course, yeah, as Dr. Madhusudan said that, yeah, the PhD programs, they are quite affordable. So there's a quite minimal fees, which you have to pay based on semesters, quarterly or annually. And as a PhD student also, the government provides you kind of certain benefits. Like suppose if you are pursuing a PhD in a particular university, like I was pursuing it in Hanover Medical School. So I think the public transport within Hanover was free for me. So that's quite nice that you are able to, these kind of benefits are provided. And also you pay some health insurance, which as a student you pay quite less. And you can also get some affordable student accommodations. And a very interesting part is that Germany is a part of European Union and a Schengen zone. So actually, when you are enrolled into any PhD program or perhaps a master's program in Germany, then you get a residence permit, which is kind of called as a student visa. And based on that, and because Germany is a part of the EU zones and Schengen zone, you can actually travel to other countries nearby Germany and you can explore more opportunities. So you can attend conferences and you can even try to gain experience in other labs and institutes just on based of that visa. So essentially, there are two different types of PhD programs in Germany. One is the structured PhD program, as I told you earlier, and one is the individual PhD position. So in the structured PhD program, it's like what I actually pursued, a program like that. So you have a list of research projects and you have to actually choose from those list of PhD projects. And then there is a mandatory coursework in these programs which you have to attend. And because there are certain number of hours which are allocated, which you have to go through for that, you have to attend those classes. And this kind of PhD program is, so it's incorporating that coursework for students. And also there are lots of events and kinds of course and soft skill courses and workshops which are organized by the program coordinator, and you get an opportunity to attend those different kinds of courses, and even you have some alumni meetups, and also there are some kind of industrial visits organized by the program. So that's quite helpful. So I think if you are pursuing a PhD in Germany and you have done your master's in India, then I think these kind of programs go more relevant for you because they are quite structured, and there is people there to help you, and also there are your fellow PhDs and your seniors who can actually guide you. Whereas suppose if you have pursued a master's already in Germany in a particular scientific area, then you're kind of more aware about what a PhD will be looking like you're more aware about which labs are good, and you're more locally, you are more aware. So maybe so you can go for individual PhD positions. So these PhD positions are coming out from specific labs, and there is a particular project, and so these kind of positions are advertised by the supervisor, the professor of the lab, and you can go for, and if you really are interested in that particular research area or project, then you can of course go for these individual PhD positions. So here you may or may not have a coursework which is mandatory. So it might be that there is a coursework mandatory by a university, so which you have to attend, but it may not be mandatory as well. And because here you are kind of on your own, so I think whatever activities are happening, so like suppose if this position is advertised in a university, so what all activities are happening in the university, you can inquire about those activities, but you're kind of on your own. So you're kind of finding out what kind of opportunities are there. And you have to probably, a student has to also perform a bit of administrative tasks, like finding out who their co-supervisors should be and kind of organizing these meetings annually. Whereas in the structured PhD program, this kind of is this kind of structured. So a program coordinator kinds of does that kind of work. So, so these are some of the PhD programs which are there in Germany, which are quite popular and quite competitive as well. And I was actually, so this is like the EMBL and the IMPRS. And I actually applied for the PhD in this EMAHA HBRS program. So this basically this institute is providing 3 PhD programs as far as when I was enrolling for the PhD. So one was in molecular medicine, the second one was in infection biology, and the third one was in regenerative medicine. And they are quite, they tend to hire a lot of international students. So they are quite friendly in that perspective. And then there is a DKFZ program, which is also in Germany, and there are many others. So I think some of the institutes which Dr. Madhusudan mentioned, that the Helmholtz Institution, the Humboldt, and the Fraunhofer, so they are also providing their PhD position. And this was, so this is one of the websites, the naturejobs.com. So this is kind of a good website because which actually gives you a lot of, it advertises a lot of positions in Germany, not only in Germany, but also in other countries. And I think it also advertises for master's positions as well. So this is kind of a good website if you want to see for PhD programs all covering in Germany. The other question which you should also basically have some idea in mind, that which is like, do you have an area of interest? So this is kind of important. So you don't have to be quite specific, like very, very specific, but just have a brief idea in mind, like what would you like to do in your PhD, or what area would you like to research upon? Because that actually helps you to make a plan in your mind that what kind of PhD programs you would like to apply. So you can kind of make a list of PhD programs and then just focus on those kind of programs. So if you don't have an area of interest, then some of the questions which can help you to find your area of interest can be like, which are your favorite subjects which you are currently pursuing? Is there any subjects which you really like? What research articles do you like reading about? So that would be quite helpful in finding your interests, and like, I think in your master's, you have like a 1-year internship project. So that's quite a good opportunity for you to actually get an idea of how research looks like, how research is performed in the lab, and you actually learn some techniques. So which techniques do you like to perform? And if you have an area of interest, then is there a possibility that you can acquire some experience in that area? You can take up some experience on certain techniques, because that will be quite helpful to strengthen your PhD application. And so yeah, this is last question is quite of a tricky question, like what's your plan after PhD? Because PhD is already a 3 to 4 years course. But of course, if you have some idea in mind that do you want to go into industry, do you want to stay in academia, then that could be helpful for you. But of course, because PhD is such a long period, like 3 to 4 years, and you never know how your experience will be, you do change your plan. So be flexible in that, but do have some idea in your mind. So essentially, this slide is basically showing what a process of enrolling, what is a process of basically how to enroll into a PhD program and what kind of stages are there. So there is initially an online application which you have to fill, and it's a very highly competitive step, because most of the applications get just shortlisted just at this step only. Very few applications go to the next round. And then there is a written exam. Now this is kind of happens very infrequent in most of the programs, but in the program which I applied, that was the molecular medicine program in Hanover Medical School. So they did had a written exam which was conducted here in India. And it was a kind of a similar exam as you would have given when you were planned to pursue your master's or something like that. So like a objective type and a subjective type questions. And then there was an online interview which happens with one of your super potentials, because during the online application process, you tend to they sometimes tell you that these are the list of the research projects, these are the positions which are there available, and you have to choose 1 to 3 positions. And based on in the online interview, it might be your supervisor, your potential supervisors for whom the research projects you have chosen, that they are kind of interviewing you, like, why do you want to do a PhD? What interest is, why are you interested in this particular research project? And what have you done in your master's or any internship project? And then comes your on-site interview, which is where very few candidates are selected, because you have to go to Germany. And that is again a very important opportunity for you to be really proactive at that point, because that is kind of a crucial step. So I'll just go briefly on each of these steps in my next slide. So coming first to the online application. So an online application, there are certain key areas on which you have to focus, because these are kind of an essential criteria where they are actually filtering out the applications. So one is your research area of interest. So some of the online applications do mention like, what is your area of interest? So here you have to be clear, don't be too specific. Don't be too specific so that you may not limit your options, but be clear, like what exactly, like a broader area of interest would be helpful. And if you have any experience in that area, then do highlight that experience, because that counts a lot. And then most of the online applications will advertise like, these are the proposed research projects. And here you have to basically, they tell that these are like 2 or 3 research projects in which you are interested, and then why are you interested, and what skills and experience do you have to offer in this, or what knowledge do you have in that area. And then another third core area will be your master's or internship projects. Really focus on that part of your master's or internship project, and be very clear in understanding like, what is that project? What are the objectives of that project, and how are you addressing them? So be precise in writing that summary and everything. And these are some of the key areas on which the applications are really looked upon and filtered out. And then comes like, if you have managed to get through to this, then they have an online interview, and that is with your potential supervisors or with the program coordinator as well. And they are really trying to inquire like, what kind of a person you are, like, why do you want to do a PhD? Why do you want to come to Germany? and why are you interested in these research projects which you chose, and what skills and knowledge do you have? And then of course, there are questions on your thesis project, which you have done, like, why did you do this project? Like, how did you do it? And what alternative techniques can you use to address a particular research question, and what challenges you face? So they are really seeing you like, are you really interested in doing a PhD? Are you really interested in this particular project? And if you have any essential skills or experience that fit to that project, then that really stands out a lot. And then final area is your on-site interview. So very few candidates are invited during this stage, and you really stand a good chance to get into the program. So before the interview day, you again get an opportunity to again select your PhD projects. And here, once you have selected, then you also should contact your potential supervisors. They are emails provided of potential supervisors whom you should contact. You should let them know that on this day you are coming and this is your schedule and you would like to meet with them. So do that. This is very, very important. And read the research articles published by that lab actually, because that will show your interest. You will be updated about what research are doing, and these supervisors really like that you're really interested in their research. And prepare your questions, whatever questions you are, just don't be afraid to ask your questions, and then on the interview day, just deliver. You have to, so you actually prepare for your presentation for the master's or the internship project, whichever you have done. So you prepare a presentation and you deliver it, and then there is a questions which have been asked, and there might be your potential supervisors sitting in the panel, and there are also other supervisors sitting in the panel. And this is quite interesting because you may have chosen projects, but there might be some other professors sitting in the panel whom project you have not chosen, but because you gave a good presentation, you quite understand, it may happen that other professors may also approach you and they may offer you a position. So that's so really prepare for your presentation nicely. And of course, then whatever supervisors for whom you have planned to meet with them and ask whatever questions you have. Try to get a feel of how that supervisor is, because it's kind of an opportunity for you, because you won't get that opportunity actually later because you have your on-site. So just try to plan your day and try to exploit as much as you can. So meet your supervisors, and definitely very much important is that meet the lab, go to the lab, visit the lab, and there you will see your lab mates, your potential colleagues with whom you have to spend 3 to 5 years. So talk to them, how do they find, and get a feeling from that how do they like, is the lab constantly publishing, is it an active lab, and how do they deal with how the meetings happen with their supervisors. So get a feeling of the lab, because that is really important, because you have to spend a crucial period of your time in that lab. And do share your contact details with them, that even if you have forgotten to ask any question on the day, because there's a lot of things going on, you have to prepare for a presentation, so you're quite nervous, you may forget something, but do share your contact details and stay in touch with them. So essentially now, if suppose you have gone through the PhD, then essentially this is how a PhD program look like. So initially there are some programs which do offer lab rotations. So what happens in that is that whatever 3 research projects you have chosen, now you may get an opportunity to work on all those 3 labs for around 2 months. And this will give you a much better opportunity to decide that which lab is suitable for you. So some of the PhD programs do offer that, but the PhD program in which I went, that didn't offer, but they had a probation period of like 3 to 4 months where a student is given, like, in 3 to 4 months you can spend in the lab, and if by any chance you don't like the lab, or if the supervisor had some kind of problem, then you get an opportunity to work in a different lab. So that is again a kind of an opportunity for you to actually get a feeling for the lab and to know which lab is right for you. And one of the that's one of the advantages of PhD programs in Germany, is that they are designed like that you start working on your research project immediately. So once you are enrolled into the into the PhD program, you immediately go into the lab and you start working on your research project. And that's really important because it's a period of 3 to 4 years and it goes just so quickly. So it's better that you start working on your research project immediately, start understanding what your project goals are, start learning the techniques, start planning your work, because there's a lot to do in the first year, first 2 years. It's a lot to do because you have to pick up a lot of stuff and you have to understand a lot. And then also try to collaborate with other labs. So if you are talking, because if you are part of a structured PhD program, then you will be basically interacting with a lot of your seniors, your other fellow PhDs. And it's a good time for you, whenever you spend time with them, to discuss about your research project, because you may get to know that, oh, there's some other technique being worked in some other lab which you can potentially use. So do try to do that kind of collaborations, because that will be quite useful. And try to focus on publishing your research. Now, this is something depending on what you want to do after PhD. If you want to stay in research, if you want to stay in academic research, or even in industry, if you want to go for a research, then do try to publish your research work, because that really helps in standing out your CV. And contribute in others. So whenever you are working in the lab, it may happen that a research project which you have started, it's from the beginning. So you will see the results of that maybe after a very long time, but there are other senior PhD students and postdocs also working with you in the lab who may have a quite a mature project. And it will be nice to work with them, shadowing them, working with them, and contributing in their efforts, because that will enable you to get those publications quickly. So you're as a contributing author. And the next part of the program is a coursework. So that is like, for first 2 years, you have to attend some mandatory classes if you're part of a structured PhD program, but you don't have to give any theory exams. So that is quite good, because then you can focus more on your research project rather than preparing for the theory work, which you have already kind of done in your master's. So that is quite good in the PhD programs in Germany, that although they have a kind of classes you have to attend, but you don't have to give any written exams for that. So, but there are some other exams like which I had in my PhD program. Of course, they can vary in different programs. So I had an intermediate exam. So this happened like after 1.5 years when I studied. So there you have to present a research article, and then you have to kind of align that research article. So you have to choose a particular research article, and you have to kind of justify that how that research article aligns with your chunk of work which you have done in those 1.5 years. Also, there are annual meetings happening with your co-supervisor. So apart from your main supervisor, you have to select some 2 other supervisors who are working in different labs, and you have to kind of give them annually updates like how your PhD project is progressing. Again, this is a good opportunity to collaborate with those other labs as well, like because these other co-supervisors will also know about your project, and they can actually also help you in that respect. And there are lots of annual program retreats happening. And then finally, it's your final defense when you have to actually defend for your PhD. Now, apart from these things, which are, I think everyone is doing in their PhD, it's kind of mandatory for you to do during your PhD, but there are lots of other activities which are also happening in the structured PhD program. And it's a great opportunity for you to actually exploit those areas as well, because they will help you to broaden your vision apart from doing just research. So you may limit down your options, but if you get involved in these kind of activities, you may actually get to know that there are lots of other things which are also happening around, which you also can pursue. So a lot of other things are like shadowing your supervisor for writing grants. So there will be your supervisor might be writing grants for other research projects. It might be worth shadowing them and knowing how to write grants, because that is another kind of experience which could be quite helpful after your PhD. Also try to acquire teaching experience. Like if you get so there are many of the PhD supervisors are also giving opportunities to PhD students and senior postdocs as well to give teaching experience and mentoring bachelor and master students. And then you also get try to go for conferences. So there are many, you get an opportunity to go for conferences where you get an opportunity to present your research for research work, and also you get an opportunity to grow your network, and you come to know that apart from academic research, there are also other opportunities which a PhD student can pursue. There are lots of workshops also happening in these programs. So there are a lot of project management, scientific writing. So there are people coming from different areas of fields, and they are kind of sharing their experiences and how you can pursue those kind of careers. So there are lots of industry visits also happening in this and career fairs, which can be really helpful for you to grow your network. And one of the, which is an optional activity for you, can be learning the German language. Now, if you want to stay in Germany and you think however your experience grow, if you like the country and you plan to stay back in Germany and you want to pursue your further career here, then it might be essential for you to learn German to some extent, because that will really help you. Even if you don't want to stay, but you have to spend your 3 to 4 years, it might be beneficial for you to learn that German language, because when you will be, because you're kind of on your own there. So you are doing your other activities like going for a grocery shop or maybe traveling, and a kind of local areas don't know exactly how to speak English. So if you have a little bit idea of German as well, then that really helps you a lot. And it's kind of a bonus for you because you know a foreign language, which actually helps you somewhere down the line. So, so these are some of the career prospects after PhD, which kind of friends of mine or seniors of mine pursued after PhD. And these are like going for an academic postdoc, which most of them do. Or you can also go for, if you want to go into industry, then you can go for an industry postdoc, or you can go for a research scientist position like I went. And there are also others, like, because there are lots of other activities happening in the program, so do involve in them, then you can actually pick up a bit of those skills as well, like scientific and medical writing. You do, so because you try to focus on publishing your research, then you do get involved into writing papers, and that's kind of a helpful activity to go into scientific and medical writing. And then there are some other areas as well, like regulatory affairs. So there are I think if you pursue PhD outside, you do get to know about like how to enter into these areas as well. And there are positions out there for fresh PhDs to actually come into regulatory affairs. Like if you have good, they're looking for good negotiation skills. And if you're quite attention to detail, there's a lot of paperwork happens in this area. And if you can stand out yourself, then they do hire fresh PhDs as well. Or if you are going for a field application scientist, so this is quite like a traveling job where you have to travel to different companies or industries, and you have a product which you have to actually sell. So that's kind of, if you're interested in traveling, so you can go for these for business development or as a clinical research associate. Like if you have in your mind that you want to go into more of clinical research, then maybe pursuing a PhD in a more clinical area will help you to go into this kind of clinical research associate, because you will be having a more experience in that area. So that will help you in standing out. And these are some of the web pages where positions come out quite frequently, and they're quite easy to go on for. Like one of the one which I actually mentioned was Nature Careers. Do have your profile in LinkedIn active. I think during your PhD, you can get an active you can set up your profile in LinkedIn, and then once you finish your PhD, be active on LinkedIn as well, because lots of recruiters contact you, and there are lots of positions coming out as well. Furthermore, Indeed is there, which is like a global career network website where you get positions coming up from Europe and all over Europe actually. Also New Scientists, where you gets a lot of positions, and one is the Job Vector. So this is perhaps specific for Germany, like you get positions specific for Germany's are coming out. And these career portals you can use not only for finding out positions, finding out job positions after PhD, but also you can look for positions for PhD positions as well. So they do advertise for PhD positions. So because I pursued my, so I'll just give you a brief highlight of how my career after PhD looked like. So as a fresh PhD, and then I pursued I went for 1 year, I did my postdoctoral research in the same lab because there was quite an interesting project which I thought would be helpful for me to get more experience in cancer research area. And it also gave me a time to apply for positions all over the world. And luckily, I got a position in a small biotechnology company, which was based in Oxford in UK. And here I was able to explore the field of immune oncology. So this company is called as Immunocore, and they are specialized in designing INTACs, which are a class of bispecific drugs, which are targeting the T cell receptor. So essentially, this is a structure of an INTAC, which looks like, and here you have a very highly specific point which is basically interacting with the antigen, which is a protein present on cancer cells. And here is another, at the opposite side, there's another point where the T cells come. So T cells are one which are fighting against the cancer cells. And so this is acting like as a bridge between the cancer cell and the T cell, which you see in these images. And they are quite high affinity. So because of their high affinity, this bridge between cancer cell and T cell is made. And that's why they can specifically kill cancer cells. So this is quite a very very kind of hot topic right now, actually, in industry, is immuno-oncology. And many scientists all over the world are exploring this field because this looks quite promising in cancer. And here my role was essentially in the target selection area. So this slide basically highlights you the process of the drug development. So it's quite a tedious and quite a long process, which takes almost 10, 15 years to get a drug in the market. And there are different stages in this process. And this usually starts with a target selection process. So you have to basically find out a protein which is not expressing in normal cells, or very low expression in normal cells, but quite high expressing in the cancer cells. And then once you identify that protein or that target, which is called as target, once you identify that target of your interest, then you have to design a drug against that. And that is called as the lead generation step. And then comes the next step to optimize that drug, do lots of kinds of experiments to optimize it and get your final candidate, your kind of a main candidate, which will potentially go into the clinic. And then there is a lot of preclinical work done, and which is kind of testing in mice, in monkeys, even in cell lines. And you do a lot of preclinical works to test the efficacy, the safety of the drug, how it's it. And here then comes, once you study the mechanism of action of drug. And then finally, there are other stages of assessing the risk, safety, finding out the right patient population, that these are your patients, and against this you will be targeting your drug. And then comes your phases of clinical trial. So I was actually working on the initial phase, which was the target selection. So based on what experience I acquired during my PhD in basic and a little bit of translational cancer research and all the skills which I acquired, so I was able to get into this area. And here I was able to utilize all my experiences in target identification and validation. And then finally, after spending a couple of time there in that small biotech company, I was able to get an opportunity in one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies, that is AstraZeneca. And here I was essentially going on a bit more onto the clinical side. And here my major aims are to understand that which is the right patient population against which the drug can be targeted, and identifying the biomarkers to select those patients, and also finding out, so once you have given the drug into the clinic, then you kind of get to know that, okay, the patients develop resistance to that drug. So now you have to understand that why they are developing resistance to it, and if there is any possible ways to overcome resistance. So it's quite an interesting, because you are quite of indirectly way you are helping the society by working on these therapeutic areas, and that was what my interest lied upon. And just giving you a brief, so I actually went on to this career path of going from a scientist to a senior scientist because I really like research. the industry research. But once you enter into industry as a scientist, like suppose, then you kind of understand other functions which are also happening on the other side, like project manager, clinical trials, regulatory affairs, and industries. Once you enter into the industry, then industry do like to hire within their employees, and they do try to give them an opportunity to work in other functions. So of course, it's not like there is a strict career path in industry from going from scientist. When you can join industry, then you do get an option to go in other career paths as well. So you can diversify your career as well. So slide is basically just explaining you how the work environment in industry is a bit different. It's from how do you work in academia or PhD, but you do acquire those skills which are required in industry. So don't think while doing your PhD that no, you are not an industry person. No, it's not like that. You have acquired certain skills which will make you really competent to get a position in industry. So the environment is a bit different. Like in academia, you will see an environment of publishing your research, getting those research articles, but industry, the main aim is to launch that drug in the market. So for them, publishing research is a bit a secondary option because they really want to get the drug in the market. And there you have to work on multiple projects. You have very time-bound goals. You have quite deadlines which you have to achieve. And it's not like in your PhD, like you are the only person working on your research project, but there are like many people are working alongside you on a particular objective. So you have to be really kind of align those people with your objectives and kind of work together. So it's a very team player kind of work. Projects fail very easily, so you should be flexible. Like suppose if you're given a project, it's not like that project will go into the clinic, it may fail. So just don't get too attached to the project, and strategies change very frequently. So these are some of the like attributes which you should you develop when you move into industry, and you actually develop them even when you are pursuing your PhD. You cannot get a team player attitude if you're working with other senior postdocs or senior PhD students. You have to plan your day because there's a lot to do. So you develop those planning skills. You are flexible because you never know the research project on which you started working on your PhD, whether that will give you because whatever PhD project on which you are studying, whether that will be fulfilled or not. So it may happen that your research project changes its direction. So just be flexible and be technically skilled and versatile. So apart from getting experience on the skills which you are learning during your research project, try to get skills on other areas also, like be competent in Excel and these Microsoft skills as well, because that you get an opportunity by if you are attending those soft skills courses and project management kind of experience. And be proactive. That is really very important, that be proactive, look out, reach out, grow your network, and have excellent communication skills. So finally, I would like to just end my talk by giving you some of the take-home messages for pursuing your PhD. Like, know your area of interest, because that will help you in filtering down and focus on some PhD programs. And then you can just read about those areas and get a knowledge or background about those areas. And to read research articles if you want to pursue research, if you want to pursue PhD, that's like quite a good habit to read research articles. Focus on your master's project and internship project, because that is essentially what most of the questions are being asked by potential supervisors during your interviews, because that is what essentially you will be doing in a more lengthy manner. So just focus on that, grow your network, reach out to your seniors, I think FABA is doing a great job in actually helping you to grow your network. So I think FABA is doing a great job in that. And don't be afraid to ask, just get whatever opportunity you get, just ask as many questions as you can. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shashank. It was a wonderful presentation, and you gave us much information on how to pursue PhD in Germany, and then take ahead our skills and transition to industry as well.